Welcome back to another fantastic episode of I'm Gonna Talk, You're Gonna Listen. This episode, I don't know. This is a special episode. We have a topic that we're gonna talk about for Steel and Tree / Steel and Tree resale. We're gonna do a video about their situation, but first we're gonna do a really quick homestead update. The deer got a wild hair up their ass. If any of you have seen my community post, and they ate. I'm assuming it was the girl deer. Ate the leaves off of every single tree, and I caught them the first day, but by the time I caught them this week, I was working like 10, 11, 12-hour days. There was just no way, and they got me. They got me when I was down, and I just couldn't repair them fast enough. The netting and everything. So spoiler alert, and I'm updating Bunker Basics to note this. Bird netting to work, you have to be like yard stapling it into the ground, because the deers will get their little beaks under there and they shred bird netting. And they also were just those green yard stakes. They were crushing those things like a rubber band, just crushing them at 45-degree angles. I didn't lose any trees, but it's going to stunt them. The bitters, the silver lining is that we're having cold snaps. Those leaves are going to be coming off anyway. But still, if we had a few more warm days, I would have liked them to collect a little bit more energy, because the trees need to collect energy to be able to make it through the winter and then pop back. So anyway, thank you. And then Bunker Basics, the fall edition of Bunker Basics is going to be coming out very soon. If you already have a copy of Bunker Basics, if you could leave a review on my Amazon, that would help a lot. I still have almost no reviews. I sold a fairly decent amount of copies. If even half of those people had left reviews, that might be a viable side business for me. So it would really help me out if you guys could just take a minute to leave a review. It helps the algorithm tremendously. Okay, we're gonna get into. I have no script for this, but this topic from Steel and Tree / Steel and Tree resale is very near. Their name is Eric. This topic is very near and dear to my heart for the obvious reason that I have lost my house. My wife and I lost our house, our dream house. Almost no interest. It was almost no interest. The payments were dirt cheap. It was in a great neighborhood. I mean, it had some problems with some, just like the little subdivision problems, like nonstop solicitors and the occasional home invasion and kids being little bastards. But all in all, it was a good subdivision. Handpicked it, perfect yard, handpicked that house. Like I said, basically no interest, but we just couldn't make the house payment. And Steel, if you're or Eric, if you're listening to this, I promise there's kind of a point to all this. The first point is to know that you're not alone. I'll be honest, like, it happened to us because of a couple different reasons. We were okay. We were kind of living paycheck to paycheck. There was a couple, before I lost my job. We were kind of living paycheck to paycheck. There was sometimes where we were both employed, then we would get ahead, and then we would get behind. Not all. It's easy for people to blame medical bills. It wasn't all medical bills, though, but that did not help. There was a couple of things on credit that snuck up to us, and honestly, we weren't living outside our means uh until you factor in that the credit got us. And it was one of those, like, how I feel about it is like, oh, how dare we try to live like the ideal, middle, what's that old what's that old term, middle class. How dare we, I had a degree, I worked in IT, I worked in the tech, I had a great job. How dare I have the audacity to try to somewhat live that American dream, if only for a little while. And um how dare I try to, get a couple things that, I enjoyed, and tried to support my side gig that I had going. And it's one of the, you just look back and you're like, oh yeah, I had the audacity to try to go to the doctor and try to, invest in myself, to try to get healthy. How dare I, do that? And um there was a couple of other tiny things that all alone weren't a big deal, but they added up. And I think that's kind of the beginning of my point, is that people usually don't lose their house because of one big thing. It's usually a ton of little things, and then, the one big thing is just like the wrecking ball that just comes through it like a hurricane. Because your finances are kind of like, this house of cards, kind of like the economy is a house of cards. You have Tech Lead has been talking about this. They lowered interest rates. Somehow that tightened credit even more, and then somehow boosted the value of the dollar even more, and that makes treasury bills somehow even harder to repay. And you have all these numbnuts running around bragging about how they're buying gold and silver. I got news for you. Unless you live in about one of 15 states that accepts those as an actual currency, that's not going to do you any good. If you try to sell that at a fencer, you're going to just lose a lot of money. So it's not really a storage of money. And in some states, like our state, they're trying to tax you to buy gold now, and you're just losing. You're losing money both ways. Not financial advice. Buy Bitcoin. That being said, they're trying to clamp down on Bitcoin again too, but it's easier to mess around with than gold. Gold is just ridiculous. That's beside the point. Like, sometimes it's like animal medical bills. People spend ridiculous. Oh no! Oh, it's family. Well, my pet is family. My pet is family. Okay, well, are you ready to go homeless? To, I've heard it all. I've heard people uh sell off all of their excess everything so they can hold on to their pet for another day. And it's like, I knew someone allegedly that hawked like their entire business, including all of their equipment. Like, they literally like hawked their entire livelihood to the point of like shutting their business down after trying to do like a funding campaign to save their cat for a little longer. And it's like, man, I would, I still miss I still miss my cats every single day. But like, you've got to be able to figure your shit out. And I don't say that easily. And so I'm not going to, this next part's not any easier. Like, I know by and large colleges are a scam. Um, not every degree, but most degrees. Um, Corporations require it, which just keeps funneling more money through the, you know, the diploma mills. It's a money laundering scheme. It's one of many money laundering schemes. And so if you have a college degree, probably 99% of you aren't able to do anything with it. That's really rough. I'm not saying any of this is Eric here's case. What I'm saying is for the rest of you is there's a million ways that this can go down. So don't like assume so and so is bad with their money, because that's often not the case. The TV would have you believe that everybody's gambling and into drugs and stuff. And alcohol is expensive and vapes are expensive, and sure, all those things are expensive, but and cigarettes are expensive. But that's not what's going to cause you to go under. And that's kind of my next point, is that even if I had never bought a single video game ever in my life, even if I had never bought, a single piece of art for the house, or, a single action figure, or single TV, you can't, I don't know. And I guess if I had just never gone to the doctor, but then what's the point of insurance? And then I guess just not pay for insurance, then just if I die, I die. There's a point I'm coming back to later for that too. I'm still not 100% sure that we would have been able to make it to be able to save our house, because I was unemployed for so long. I want to say 2.5 years is how long I was unemployed for during the last crash, and this is 2014 through 2017. Also, incidentally, why I was not able to capitalize on the very first crypto boom. Otherwise, I'd be crypto rich, but I was so busy losing my mind, frantically trying to figure all this out, that I completely missed Bitcoin. I'm not bringing that up again to try to remind you to get Bitcoin, but it is kind of ironic. And I think that's what happens. I think that you get so frizzle fried, and I think they do this on purpose, that people who are able to maintain capital, just every single time there's a crash like this, those people get richer and richer and richer. I don't have a problem with people being rich. What I'm saying is, being able to ride out a wave is how you come out on top. And see, we would have, maybe, if we had saved every penny our entire lives, maybe would have been able to come through that. But we wouldn't have come out ahead. It would have been brutal. It still would have been brutal. We still would have been, living 2 years on food stamps, right? Now, here's another thing. It's going to be hard for me to track all this, so I'm probably going to forget some of it. Living on food stamps back then is not the same as living on food stamps now. We had enough on our food card back then to where if you went to the secondhand, almost expired stuff, you could get 2 months of groceries. So you could get an entire month of groceries and then a second month in canned food. And that's really when I started a lot of my prepping journey, was we had a massive pantry full of food on top of what we were already just living day to day on. And you can't do that now. A full food card, might get you 2 weeks of food. unless you're gonna eat rice and beans. And then yeah, good. I mean, that's not impossible, but like it's not gonna be fun. And so there's a lot of just like a lot of comparisons, like you may have been able to sell a lot of things back then, like I was. And during the Rona, people were able to sell a lot of things too. But nobody has any money right now. So if you do sell something, if you do have something of value, chances are it's going to be like a quarter of what it's worth again. And that always happens when there's a downturn. So this is when you should be buying things, but instead you're so screwed up many times through no fault of your own, you can't make any gains, right? So like for example, just to prove a point, I went ahead and bought an eTrex 30X Garmin GPS device for like a quarter of what they're worth. Just to have one because they're rad and I wanted a second one. And the economy is dog shit, so I was able to get one for like a quarter of the price. Those are the things that you can do when you're able to ride this out. But because we lost the house, we lost out on that being able to sell at the top. And that's another problem of what's going on right now is if you're losing your house, you can't sell at the top now. Everybody is trying to sell, but the interest rates are insane. You look at and there's no jobs. I was just talking to dentist gal, and they're putting up a whole subdivision right next to the dentist. They're finishing a subdivision on the other side, and then up on the hill, they're putting in a new subdivision. In the next town over, they're putting up a huge subdivision. There's no infrastructure for these people. There's no grocery store. There's no school. I mean, there is, but like it's tapped. Like there's no jobs, and these are like $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 houses. There isn't a job in 30 miles that pays enough. There just isn't. And remote work is almost done. Remote work, aka actually get fired and replaced by an H-1B, because of our limp-wristed leadership in charge right now that's just letting us get overran by H-1Bs. So we're in a very different situation now, but that doesn't mean I don't know what I'm talking about. That just means it's actually going to be even harder. So we weren't able to sell our house at the top. We lost it. We had to live in somebody's back room for 2.5 years. 3.5 years? 4.5 years? 3.5 years. No, 5.5 years. We had to live in somebody's back room for 5.5 years. That's how long it took us to get back on our feet again. And part of that was like, we moved in someone's back room and our spending was still really bad. But, in a lot of ways, I fell back into my old habits. I had to sell my video game collection for a quarter of what it was worth, which was heartbreaking. I picked a tiny part of my video game collection during the Rona, again, while it was down, to before everybody got their Rona checks and quadrupled the price of video games again. Which I had told my friend to hang on to them, but, he thought he was so smart to, quick flip everything. And it's like, video games are one of those things that just are going to infinitely go up in price forever. The originals. But, that he's so smart. Whatever. He missed out making like a literal fortune off of those games, but whatever. And that's the problem, is I had to sell them at a massive loss, because that's what happens when the economy's down. So you might have stuff that's worth it and you just can't move it. Or like what people used to do, they used to be able to sell your guns, and you can't do that anymore. So because of that, you know, it took us 5.5 years to straighten our shit out. By just a complete miracle, we got this house. But keep in mind, like, this is a house from the 80s. This is a manufactured home from the 80s. And they sold this place at 4 or 5 times what the place literally cost, what this manufactured home would literally cost, like brand new. And we would have been able to buy this place outright if we'd been able to flip our house. And so would we be massively ahead? No, we would have broken even. But like, that's so much better than what everybody else is having to deal with. Not everybody. Some people are okay. Like, some people are okay, but they don't want to let on that they're okay. Not everybody's poor. And I think that's still a big common misconception. I know that's a big common misconception at my work, is that everybody is poor and living paycheck to paycheck and dependent and nervous and desperate. Desperate's the word I'm looking for. But that's not the case. There's people out there with money. You drive on the freeway and you look at how many new cars are driving around. Like, there are tons of people doing just fine. I have no idea what those people do, or if they're just living off all their sold California homes. But not everybody's doing bad, and I know that can be extremely frustrating. And that's how I lost basically all of my friends, because none of them wanted to be friends with somebody who didn't own a house. They saw me as toxic cancer, and I lost every single one of my friends except for tiny handful. And then so let's get to Eric's story here. So now that I've shared my story, let's talk about Eric's story and see what kind of situation he's in. It's a very similar situation, which is why I wanted to bring up my story, to show that I'm not just... I can't stand people who just shit out their opinion for what to do. Like, if you haven't dealt with this before, by and large, your opinions are massively tone deaf and invalid. So I'm gonna try to put Eric's story here into perspective, and then kind of have some like real talk. So deep breaths, everybody. Eric says, "Hello, everyone. This is the post I never thought I'd have to do or wanted to do, but it was suggested by a couple people, and at this point, I don't have too many options left. I need help. I lost my job back in March and haven't found steady work yet. I've had to turn down a couple jobs offered by the temp service due to medical conditions I have, and it didn't work out for the same reason. The other situation I have is my truck's out of commission and wheel bearing or CV joint. I'll know more next week. Also, I have a coolant leak and 2 hoses need to be replaced. Right now, I'm behind on my mortgage and I'm at risk of losing my home and property. The electric is almost due. The water bill's next. If I can get the mortgage caught up soon, I may be able to avoid having to do the payoff." I think what he means by that is avoid having to sell it. Maybe he means short sell. So we'll talk about that more in a second. What I'm needing is around $3K to $3,500. Now I'll say that's like nothing. Um, but we'll get to that in a second. He says that would help with bringing the mortgage current, truck repair, getting the vehicle insurance tags up to date, pay a few bills, and cover other necessities. I do have a phone appointment with Social Security. I can get things started for disability, but that could take quite a while. That could take years. And then he says any help would be greatly appreciated. My cash tag for Cash App is below. I'll try to get my Venmo straightened out and add that later. Thank you. And then his Cash App is $ Steel Entry. Or if you want me to send a cash donation, email me. And then his email Steel and Tree exit407@gmail.com. So, a couple things. 3,000 to 3,500 is nothing unless you don't have a job, and that's kind of the problem. Like, if I was in a better position, like if I had been able to keep above water the whole time, like I would probably have that, and so would a lot of other people. And that's kind of the problem, is like we're able to just barely scrape along, but like not really able to get ahead. So I have no doubt, Eric, that there's people out there that'll see this story and want to give what I recommend. So I did a bunch of things, and each of them had varying degrees of success. You need to start a Give, Send, Go that is different than a GoFundMe. Give, Send, Go, and then put your story on there, and then that'll have way better reach than YouTube, and that'll have something for everybody to go and kind of rally behind. Cash App and stuff is nice if people want to be like anonymous. Cash App doesn't take too much out of it, but like, yeah, you need to get a Give, Send, Go started, and it's a tough situation because your truck's out of commission. What I would do with the Give, Send, Go is I would itemize everything out. Like, the truck is going to cost this much, the mortgage is this much, the electric bill is this much, the water bill is this much. That way people can, it gives kind of like a more progressive, not progressive, like an iterative approach, breaking everything down like that. See, what I was able to do is before Give, Send, Go, I had a GoFundMe, I think it was. And it didn't give me enough to save the house, but it gave me enough to be able to like file for bankruptcy, which is stupidly expensive. That got the creditors off my back. Some of that money was, helped me got a U-Haul and stuff, and helped pay for cleaning up the house so we could sell it. So God kind of works in mysterious ways sometimes. I certainly don't want you to lose the house, and I'm certainly not passing judgment. I will say sometimes it's better to let it all go if it lets you reconsolidate. And that's when you have to look and go, okay, like, what is the likelihood I'm really going to get out of debt? What kind of job do I have to get to be able to get myself out of debt? Or, at the bare minimum, to get some kind of forbearance on the house, if you can. Lenders used to work with people way back when, before they got greedy. Maybe they have somebody that'll help you hold it off for a little while longer while you figure something out. I will say electric bills are hellacious right now, and you're going to have to do everything you can to save every ounce of electricity, and that's going to mean TVs and stuff, air conditioners. What else? Social Security is going to take forever. You should start on it, but don't count on that. And then chances are you're going to get some absolute douchebag, um, judge that just thinks they're somehow, Indeed and, LinkedIn and stuff. They think they're so smart, even though they sit in a judge cave their entire life and know nothing how the world works. These people give the absolute biggest morons on the planet Social Security disability all the time. People who need it routinely get screwed out of it, even if you get a lawyer, and then you just get robbed by the lawyer as well. The lawyer won't, can't even be bothered to show up, and then you're out even more money. You can try to sell things, but what I've found out, through my friend who sold all my video games, Amazon and eBay are designed to nickel and dime you. They let you sell a few things, and then they start taking way too much. So that's rough. So don't think you're going to eBay and Amazon your way out of this. And if you don't price things perfectly, if you don't price everything in perfectly, which is going to feel like it's way too expensive, you're going to actually sell things and lose money. And so I'll just take my books for an example. People want to buy the book directly from me. Because Amazon Prime doesn't work for me as an author, I have to pay for the shipping and the tax to get it to me. And then I have to ship it to you, which means I have to pay shipping and tax again. That has now equaled the full price of the book. The full cost of the book, I should say. It's outrageous. And that's not even counting the envelope and the packing material, which I know you could say, like, well, that's free. It depends. It depends on how many books you order. So I have to jack my price of those books through the roof, which makes me feel really uneasy at the price that I have to charge to make any money. Whereas I can just drop ship them. I still am just kind of throwing away almost the cost of the book usually. But at least I'm not paying like double shipping and double tax. Or you can just order it yourself where it's all baked in and Amazon Prime takes care of it. And so that isn't like self-promotion. That's just like explaining the bullshit that you're going to go through if you try to sell something. You've got to sell it, and you've got the insurance and the shipping and the tax. And then if too many things are ruined, like the insurance isn't going to want to cover it. So I sold an action figure. I believe it was a very rare action figure. And we used way back when, I don't know, I can't remember if it was FedEx or who it was, but they had this thing where it was like, they give you the white glove treatment. And the dude just like straight up destroyed it, or whoever it was, dude or gal or whatever, just like straight up destroyed it right in front of me, priceless. Little action figure that somebody wanted. And the guy got it and said, "What the fuck?" And I said, and the thing is, like, eBay doesn't want you talking to these people, or I guess for scam purposes or whatever. But I'm just like, I go, I'm like, you keep it, you do whatever you want to it. Um, Kick it back, like kick the thing back. Don't rank me down, please, God. And I will, or I refunded him, and then which he gracefully, didn't run me over the coals. And then I did the insurance. I did the insurance thing, and thank goodness that was back when it worked. I don't know if that there's so many scams now, but I watched him do it, and so it just broke my heart. Because not only did he clearly wanted that, but it was once those things are taken out of circulation, there's a finite amount of those little action figures and stuff, and it sucked. That was a piece of my childhood. Anyway, blah blah blah. All that is to say, selling things is not what it's cracked up to be. So don't think you're gonna sell your way out of this. Sell your knickknacks. If you do have to move, though, sell your couch if you can sell your couch. Otherwise, call the dump and see if they'll pick it up. Anything, or call those places that'll come and pick it up. That donate it, so you don't have to pay. The biggest mistake people make is they try to put their couch in storage, which is just the dumbest thing in the world. If you leave that couch in storage for even like a month or two, you just paid as much storage as the couch is worth. For the life of me, I still don't understand why people do that. Same thing with, grandma's chair. Do you really need grandma's chair? It's just things like that. I don't know. It's tough. But if you've got low or no interest, or if your workshop is at the house, I definitely don't fault you for wanting to hold on to it. Or if it's like just the perfect bug out location or whatever. But if it's the perfect bug out location, maybe a friend or two will help you. But like, I know what happened in my case is like I couldn't even get friends to come over and help me repair things. Even though they knew how to, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. They just didn't want to, or for whatever reason. And some of them actually ended up stealing things from me. So-called friends. And also, to add insult to injury, someone stole my gas because my mom gave us a second car so my wife could try to work. Someone stole our gas. They pried it open with a screwdriver. We were negative $900 in debt just in the debit card. That was horrendous. And the overages, I think they can still do this, but they can hit you with 5 or 6 overages a day. They're like $33 a piece. You'll never break that cycle. And I even tried to explain that to my mom, and my mom tried to give me some money, and I'm like, it's literally pointless for you to give me money unless you're going to pay for all of my overages and then enough to where I won't immediately go upside down again. And she didn't get it. She didn't get it, and I think she didn't like it. And I think it just made her frustrated and upset, and it made her not want to help even more. And then she only just barely helped enough for us to keep limping along. Whereas my brother helped a lot, and my stepsister helped as much as she could. And I think, and then the rest of the family turned their back on me and turned their back on us. And I think that's part of what you learn is you learn who your real friends are, and you learn who your real family are. And you might be able to forgive that shit, but don't ever forget it. Because those are the people that are gonna come crawling back to you later saying, "Oh, can you help me?" It's like, man, you left me high and dry. I'd be on a fucking curb thanks to you. So, it's hard to have those conversations. Um, I stopped talking to like 80% of my family after I lost the house. Um, Granted, we needed a lot more than you to get back in the swing of things, but I think part of what you're going to need to figure out is that's how much you need to get back to zero, but you're going to need to figure out how to sustain that because there will be some like fatigue. I would say, and I think I mentioned this to you on your post, is I would caution you to not turn jobs down just because of your medical issues. But hear me out. There are so many jobs now that have reasonable accommodations. Uh, Most people use it, because they want to pray 5 days a day and get their prayer bump in on their floor mat. But I mean, there's other medical accommodations too that they can make. Now, if you're dealing with, whether or not to be an Amazon driver, Uber driver, or whatever, like, yeah, that's tough. But I would leave. I mean, obviously, talk to your agency, but like some of these places, it's like, okay, I got the job. Now, can we talk about like a reasonable accommodation? Because there's going to be a point in time where it's like, if you need any reasonable accommodations, let us know. And then you're like, okay, cool. Well, I can't. I don't know what your disability is, and I don't really need to know, but most people it involves not being able to lift something, So it's like, is there something I can do where, I can not lift things? Um, and then usually as long as you don't lift anything, they'll be fine. We had a gal, she was 100% scamming us out of disability claims, and she was not supposed to be lifting anything. She would lift things on purpose and then go home on my back, disability for like 3 months. She did that to us multiple times. Management gave me the heads up the last time because they're like, if you let her lift something up, we're going to be holding you responsible. And I'm like, I don't think you can do that, but I understand. I will work with you on this. And sure as shit, she was lifting something I told her not to. I left. I got as far away from that as I could. I'm like, I will lift that for you, and she said no, and I left. And then later, she was lifting something allegedly and hurt herself allegedly and had to go home. And thankfully, I quit soon after that. So obviously, like, but sometimes it's just like, well, you need to sit down, every half hour. Like most managers, again, unless you're an Amazon driver and you need to run around like a methed out Sonic the Hedgehog, um, like that people will they'll make like if they like you, they'll make accommodations if they can. So all my point with that is like, don't if you don't have to, don't turn something down just because you think it's not gonna like perfectly jive. because if a place likes you, especially if they like your history and they like your work ethic and you do some kind of special thing that they need, they might be able to make something work for you. So, yeah. So get a give, send, go going and start itemizing this out, Eric. And, I think I don't know anything about your living situation or whatnot, but if your house is in a good area and it's a good bug out location and it's where your tools are in your shop, and I'm assuming all those things, it's very much worth saving. I hope some of this stuff helped. At least you're not alone. And what I will say to everybody else is, like, if you're one bad day away from this happening to you, you've got to try to figure something out. You've got to try to lock down, turn those damn subscription fees off, those Netflix and Paramount and Discovery and Hulu and cable. Like, you don't need to watch sports that much. Like, if you're going to be living on the street, you don't need sports. You don't need those distractions. Like, those distractions are all just tools of the devil right now. You need to get your head on straight, and you're going to feel, that, buying that coffee, you're going to feel a lot better. But it has to be a whole plan, and you have to stick to it. It's not just coffee. Like, if you spend a lot of money on alcohol, if you spend a lot of money on cigarettes, vape juice, scratchers, you've got to really, potato chips, soda. It's not just one thing. It's like a lot of stuff. And there's places that'll help you consolidate your debt, but I don't know if you have a debt problem. If you have a medical problem, sometimes talking to the hospitals can get some of that pressure off. If you have college degrees, there's some programs to help you with that. What I'll say is don't give up. But I'd say for everybody else, you're probably one bad day away from this happening to you. I wouldn't want to have any less than like 6 to 9 months of mortgage and what are they called? Utilities. I don't have that. Everyone says you need this much food and beans and bullets and bandages and stuff. You need all that too, but roaming shout outs to Roaming Prepper Defensive Preparedness. That's what his book is about, is like getting back to zero and then crawling back out of it. And unfortunately, like, the longer you're below zero, the more painful it is to get out of it. And I don't want you to have to sell your place, and you don't need that much, but you need to have a long-term plan. And this is kind of, again, my message to everybody else. Like, you need to plan on, like, and I've talked to OVP about this, but I want to talk to other people about it too. Like, you guys need to be planning on like a 90% unemployment between the H-1Bs, the illegals, and AI automation. It's going to be years. If true manufacturing ever comes to the US, it's years away. Orange Man is doing a little bit. I know he just did some stuff with like trucks, the big semi trucks. But tariffs are just like taxes. So goodness forbid if it's like something you need and it's a tariff, it's now going to just be exponentially more expensive. And not to throw shade, but way too many people have jobs that are just drop shipping Chinese products. And I think it's unfair when it's your own product that was manufactured in China and there are no US manufacturers. But a lot of that is just simply not the case. A lot of these people I've seen is like, you're just drop shipping Chinese garbage. I don't feel sorry for those people. So plan on 90% unemployment and then try to figure out what you're going to do about it. Buying gold and silver is not going to help you. I tell you that. Unless you live in a state where that's a legal tender. So people, oh, I have cash. Cash isn't accepted in a lot of places now either. So you really need to like figure it out. And I'm not saying, go get Bitcoin, but there's crypto credit cards now. Like you've got to be thinking several steps ahead. And so if you are employed, if your employer has any training, that means looking to see if there's any courses in how to transfer what you do to an AI, so at least you can build a buffer and build a moat around yourself. Obviously, don't tell them that you're doing it because you don't want them to just turn your job into an AI job, but use the AI as leverage for yourself. And so you can future-proof yourself and future-proof your knowledge in your resume. Fill up your time doing like productive stuff. Building that moat, that knowledge moat around yourself. And then plan on losing everything. And then tell yourself, what did you wish that you could have learned, to get you through losing everything, So we were living in someone's back room, what was I able to do? I still had my degree, I had some certifications, and I had my brand, I got another side gig. My old side gig wasn't working. I started a new side gig. I started a new job that aligned with, my professional brand. I'm not doing amazing right now. I need to be doing way better than I'm doing. But, that takes time because I don't have, a prestigious job title. I don't have that identity that I can't think of the right word. Tech Lead talks about this stuff all the time. Being a coder doesn't have that prestige anymore. Being a BA, being QA, if you're in the tech world, that just doesn't have like the prestige anymore. If you're going to stay in tech, you got to get a job title that comes with some oomph behind it. I can't think of the right word that I want to say. It's got to come with some power behind it. Unfortunately, being a BA is just like watered down. Being a QA, that all got outsourced. And being a BA, a lot of that's going to get handed off to an AI. A lot of the PM stuff's going to be handed off to an AI. So if you're in tech, you better be building a big freaking moat around yourself. And so that's what I'm helping my friend do. I told him, I'm like, you need to switch out of data, solely data, and then go to like data/AI. So he's going to switch his plan around to revolve around data and AI so he can continue to build a moat around himself. And, that's the sign of a good leader, aka me, is making sure, my coworker is taken care of. Yeah. So, and, Eric, I want to make sure you're taken care of too. I don't know you. I've never watched your show or anything, but I think your story is going to resonate with a lot of people. And I think how you come through this is going to be good content, but also it's going to help a lot of people. And it's like this these two gals that have just been getting their asses handed to them in Portland by the anti-ICE terrorists. And I told her, I've wondered about this for a long time. And she said she was hearing me, but I don't know if she really was. But now that she's been attacked a few times, I've noticed her content slowly changing to, I was talking to her about pre-attack indicators. She got attacked several times. And now her videos are starting to become about showing other people the pre-attack indicators. And I think not only is she smart because she's using her content wisely, but she's helping people. Because the attacks are going to get worse by these psychopaths, these anti-ICE psychopaths. And we got to just keep sharing our knowledge. And so I lost my house. I'm sharing my knowledge. Eric, I hope you can make something happen. That's not a lot of money. Just come up with a plan. Come up with a plan and come up with some dates and some milestones, and that'll not that people need a reason to get behind you, but it'll keep like that motivation going. Does that make sense? It'll keep that motivation going. To know that you're not alone, and to know that people are rooting for you, and to know that it's important that you get your truck fixed, you know? Just like it was important, like one of my friends, one of the last things he did before he basically stopped talking to me is he came and put enough fuel in my car for me to be able to get the car back to the gas station and get enough gas to just go drive the car back to my brother. It's like, here, take the car back. Like, you know, there's no jobs, and if the car's here, it's just going to it's never going to have fuel in it, because that's the other thing. Like, people are going to start stealing fuel again. People have been robbing the stores blind. Like, every major store is like pulling out of Portland. And then, you know, the fuel tanks, the catalytic converters and stuff, like. So you have to be able to roll with this. And it's very hard. It's not easy. So I'm getting kind of a little bit of a low grade headache here. This has been a very, very long day. I hope this helps. Eric, get that GiveSend Go going. And then I'm sure everybody will pump it really hard. You seem like a good guy. I apologize for not watching your videos, but like I usually only talk to people that I collab with, but I saw your story and I want to help. But just everybody else know that Eric here is not going to be the last. We all need to be hardening our financial situations. And unfortunately, it would have been better to be planning that 5 or 10 years ago. Because it takes a tribe. And what I think is going to happen in the future, like, we're all going to be piling onto each other's property. That's what happened last time, you know. So Eric, you know, if you've got a property that people are going to want to pile onto, I kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier. Tell them, like, hey, if you're going to want to pile onto this property, you know, if the shit hits the fan, you got to help me hold on to it. I don't know how much acreage you have or whatever, but if you go to a church, you might ask the church. If you can find a good, based church, explain your situation to them. It's tough though. Like I said, like I'm glad you're not looking for like easy solutions. There's a lot of people that's like they want the easy solution. It's like that may be what you want, but that's not what you need. And I know that's really tough. And what we wanted and what we needed were two different things, and what we got was a third thing. And through the grace of God, we were able to get through it, but it was very painful. But sometimes when you're sick and you got to get the poison out, it's painful. And that's what debt is. Debt is poison. They want us all in debt, exhausted, with no resources, discouraged, no way to defend ourselves. They want to run us out of resources. And Amazon and Uber and I'm sorry, but even these UPS and like FedEx, it's like just so much of that shit's going to be replaced. A lot of USPS is going to get replaced too. And it's just like, man. And then what, again, like I said before, what are we going to do with all the illegals when all their jobs get replaced, by AI and automation and robots? What are the illegals going to do? It's going to be a mess. It's going to be absolute, abject chaos. And so you're going to need a property and you're going to need squared away buddies. And so, Eric, if you've got a good property, that people can bug out to, like, those are things. Anyway, people might think that they own a piece of it though, and that's going to be a little weird, but one of the things that I wanted to do that didn't work out last time and this time is, like, hey, if you pitch in a few $100 a month, this will be your spot. If you have a shipping container, caching a little bit of people's stuff and having them toss you a little bit of money to, hold on to their stuff for them, and security cameras and gates and things. Like, we can brainstorm some more, but because I don't know very much about you and your resources, and I should have watched more of your videos, did homework, but like I said, I've at the beginning dealt with having all but 2 of my apple trees wiped out, and then they started on my cherry trees. So, and I've my most important week at work, so I just haven't had like the mental emotional capacity. But I really feel for you, and I hope this helps. And everybody, if you could check, I'll leave his post. I'll leave a link to his post in the comments, and if he does a Give Send Go, I'll update with that too. Okay? Alright, talk to y'all later. Bye. The only way we make it through this is together.
The only way we make it through this is together. The only way we make it through this is together. So catch your radios and gear. The only way we make it through this is together. So turn off your sports and set down your beer. So grab your boots and pack, we've gotta make it through this together. Survive the first attack, we'll get through this together, I remind my friends. Hiking out of a bombed out city full of dead ends. Boarded up windows and car-sized potholes, we trudge through the mud. Time to ford the river, friends, come. roads and we land as rifle rounds crack. We drove the meth heads back, but you can't stay here, he says as we dry off. They'll be back at sundown, and I look at him and scoff. Here's 2 grenades for your trouble, I laugh as I toss them across. You'll always be welcome here, accepted the river boss. We trudge through the subdivisions to the rural area, scanning sectors, getting our compasses out with topo maps, ensuring